We continue our discussion on the country's football fortunes. We're joined by South African Football Players Union President Thulaganyo Gaoshubelwe, the former Bafana player, the midfield maestro Dr. Khumalo, and of course in the studio is the SAFA CEO currently Tebogo Motlanthe and award-winning sports journalist Jeffrey Zikhali. Dr. Motlanthe, we just need to understand, as part of Vision 2020, you identify a schools program as one of the... We've sort of explored it. Dr. Khumalo has said, let's put politics aside. Let's get going there. There's an agreement that it looks like at that grassroots level. If we can get it right, we'll be okay. And just at the break there, I was telling you off air that when I was growing up and I was at school, I used to watch the likes of Jomo Sono play at schools. Wednesday was like a beautiful soccer day across the township in Soweto. Is that the kind of thing you're trying to get to now, and why are you failing?
Of course, that's where we want to get. And as a point of departure, the association then decided to form a schools committee, which is led by educators, to say you are there, let's get this ball rolling, let's get involvement of more schools, because previously you had a number of schools which were used by SASFA. They were very much less numbers. And like everyone is saying here, rural schools, what were we doing? We had abandoned them. So we are trying to revive them. And of course, the stumbling block, as I said, is that dispute which happened between SAFA and SASFA. And I agree with Dr. Khumalo that the government should not be taking side at this stage. We should put egos aside and say what is best for kids. And it's a pity the government is not in this discussion, unfortunately. We wanted them to be...
We'll try and get their views. We'll try. It's a very important discussion for the country.
We wanted to get them here, because even in their EPG, they speak about school sports. But the government is not playing ball, because in some provinces they work with these people. It goes back to what Mr. Zikhali was saying, to say, it's who do you know? There was a program which was introduced with Masters and Legends to say former players need to go back there and plow back. It was during the time of Minister Mbalula. When the new minister took over, that program died. So we need to go back to basics, and we agree that schools football is a way to go. We just need a process which is supported by government, because at some point you get to schools, educators are saying, no, we are not willing, we are not paid for doing football.
Well, the idea I'm getting that you're trying, but some people say it's not good enough, you need to work harder. But I want to bring in another issue here, because of the time that we have. PSL and SAFA, are you on a good relationship? I've seen some soccer journalists writing since last year that there's a cold war of sorts between yourselves and PSL. It's the league that attracts foreign players. It is well-funded. It produces top players from what we're hearing. Are you guys and PSL working hand-in-hand very well?
Well, previously people said that, but since I took over, I will say the relations have improved. I sit with the CEO of the league. When there are issues, we deal with them. And one would have seen during bubble, when we were to go to the bubble, there were a lot of differences of opinion. But at the end of the day, we found each other. And it's a machine which continues to work. I will give you one example. You remember previously we had a sponsorship for referees, which was subject for disputes, and it ended up in arbitration. So now, when we had this new sponsorship for referees, we had to sit with the league to avoid conflicts, because, of course, SAFA has the right when it comes to match officials. And we sat and found a solution which now will not be going to any. And we are continuously, it's not only with the league, and Thulaganyo, the president of the union, is here, he knows. We had discussions and to say, how do we then improve and involve all stakeholders to ensure that you kill all these unnecessary differences, because you need, PSL is a special member of SAFA. The chairman of the league is the vice president of SAFA. He attends the National Executive Committee meetings of SAFA. So we cannot, as our generation, say, no, there are problems. We need to get deeper and ensure that these two structures work and talk to each other.
Doctor, when you hear that, do you believe the SAFA CEO that things are better with the PSL? I mean, you were a technical director, I guess, until recently with Baroka FC?
Yeah, from the look of things, they wouldn't have pulled it off regarding the pandemic that we have experienced. And we appreciate what SAFA and PSL have done, because they managed to bring back the game. And remember, the feeder to SAFA is the PSL. And we need to commend what Dr. Evan Koza and Mr. Mdaung and Dr. Denny Jordan have produced in terms of making sure that the game is back, because some of the countries they've struggled, and with the game back, it shows that there was a peace pipe that was smoked in terms of understanding and agreeing in certain terms, because SAFA is the one that gives the references to the PSL. So the least that I can say before we could end this discussion is that let the government be part of this journey. Hence, I'm saying that if all the stakeholders can just be united, and for the sake of the game, let's just do the right things in order for us to go back where we belong.
I agree with you, Doctor. I must say that, because that's why we invited government, but they've let us down for this discussion. Maybe they've got valid reasons. Unfortunately, they're not here. We'll try and get them. And, life does happen. Thulaganyo, when you hear about what the relationship is improving with PSL and SAFA, your members, from a players' union perspective, are the players feeling that things are better between the two bodies?
No, absolutely. I can attest to that, because rightfully so, we would know that pre-COVID and post-COVID, that period was very important. And previously, we would not have been consulted as the players' union. But during this period, we signed the CBA with the league, and the relationships have been drastically improved. And I can attest, we've been in meetings where it's us and the league, where it's us and SAFA. The discussions are normally not easy. We tell each other the honest truth, but importantly is that we have now started building structures, administratively so. You also have to level the playing field, whether it's the issue of the National Dispute Resolution Chamber, which ourselves, the first on the continent, by the way, ourselves and SAFA, ourselves and the league, we have sat down to say the voices of the players are very important. And they are not only important to the extent that they are still playing. They must also be able to sit down and bring together even the government, where the players would be able to raise those issues. That's the only way we'll be able to grow. Where we are able to say, but then there are issues of sustainability to the extent that sponsorships are concerned. How does our government then become an enabling, a player? Because that's their responsibility. We can't, even this day and age, you find that when you go to schools, where you see their great fields, you know that rugby is played there. When you see that there are no good schools, sporting facilities, you must also know that, no, it's football and everything.
It looks like, it feels like and looks like soccer, football has been relegated to second-class kind of status, which is unbelievable and unacceptable. Jeffrey, do you think PSL is doing a good enough job or producing good enough quality players to feed into the whole thing? And from your experience, the relationships with SAFA, how are they?
Again, it's reverting back to what I said earlier. Where there is money, there is problems. Not only in South Africa, not only in CAF, not only in FIFA, globally. We have got the elections in the US now. It's all about money. Who makes promises, who has done what. And I think it's all about humility. It comes to a point in an individual, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a family, whether it's a government organization, whether it's an institution, whether it's a church, where you have got to come back and be on your knees and say, you have got an idea, I've got an idea, let's sit together and share. Humility. That's all what can take our South African football forward.
Is there a fight over money at SAFA?
No, it's not. I will not say it's over money, because SAFA depends on sponsors. You cannot say SAFA has money, because you depend on sponsors, and sponsors gives you money program-based. When they say we give you money for referees, it's for referees. So I will not say it's about money. But
what could it be about? I mean, we had the issue of deploying resources. Thulaganyo mentioned that as well. And Khumalo, are you able, and there's no interference from anybody? Do you get pressure from anybody? How you deploy the resources that are at your disposal?
There is no pressure from anyone, because there are budgets which guides the processes. The issue which Mr. Zikhali keeps on talking about, which I think is a problem every sector you go, is politics and egos. You, for instance, have a member of SAFA, which is South African Masters and Legends, where you expect that you need to have all former players there. But when you get to the meetings, there is a debate of who is a legend, who is a master. They are different of classes.
They must ask us. They must ask. You must ask us as the fans. We'll tell you that Dr. Khumalo is a legend. We'll tell you that Lucas Radebe is a legend. Neil Tovey is a legend. Sean Bartlett. We'll tell you Penny McCarthy is a legend.
Exactly, I agree with you. But it's them amongst themselves, because remember, they are an autonomous structure. They are a member. But when you have to go there, you hear that, no, there is class of 96 which needs to be favored over the other classes. But SAFA, even through its committees, are calling on players. We know that they are expertise. They know this game. You have your technical committee, you invite, you have your commercial, because they also appeal to the market. You call them and get them involved. You have them as coaches, you get them involved. When you train coaches, you also give special preference to former players.
So Ntate Motlanthe, Doctor's point about egos and politics is a very important one. Jeff, it looks like it plays itself out.
That's exactly the point. And I feel sorry for Mr. Motlanthe and the South African Football Association here, because they're like the on top of the pyramid. Ubaba lo. Kuna madodana la ngaphansi, women's football, PSL, the veterans, and they're trying to be a father to everybody. Now, one son, indodana yeSAFA, PSL, inemali eningi. And why does it have more money? It's because of the mileage. Television, magazines, newspapers, and sponsors will always tell you, what are we going to get if we invest money here? Now, how many players, how many matches does Bafana play?
But remember, a sponsor won't come on board unless they're going to see a good return on their investment.
Exactly. And this is the predicament. And that's why I feel sorry for Mr. Motlanthe, because for them it's like always like, we are the South African Football Association, we are the head, Singubaba, we are the bosses here. But then the sponsors say, but what mileage are we going to get? And until somebody takes away the ego and say, you are the father, give us direction, we will come with the ideas, we'll come with the ammunition, we're going to move together, and we're going to make this thing work.
So it's a tough one. The other point I want to come back to, Doctor, is about processes. We had being mentioned earlier that maybe the selection processes that are being used at different levels. But I just want to, when we come back, I want to touch on, do you believe from a technical director perspective that you've occupied now that you've moved from playing to coaching, that SAFA is using the right processes at a technical level to select coaches and other coaches as well using the right processes to select quality players? In the intro, when we started, we played a clip from Danny Jordan, the president of SAFA, who says, and I quote, and I'm reminding you in this today's special, we want local coaches to give our youngsters a chance. Unfortunately, in this country, very often when you talk about the 26, 27-year-olds, we talk about a youngster. There's a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old that plays for a big club. And he mentioned Barcelona and Kylian Mbappe as an example. So how do we fit into that global picture? In the last segment of today's special on football fortunes here, as we look at them here on eNCA, we're going to find out what's the best way forward. Stay with us.